Imagine waking up trapped underground in total darkness. You can barely move, the air is running out, and somewhere above you, strangers are negotiating your life for money. This is the true story of the woman who survived being buried alive. It was December 17th, 1968. Barbara Markle was a student at Emory University in Georgia. She had fallen sick with the Hong Kong flu shortly before Christmas break, so her mother traveled to Atlanta to bring her home to Florida. The two checked into a small motel outside Atlanta for the night. At around 4 a.m., there was a knock at the door. A man outside claimed there had been a terrible car accident involving Barbara's boyfriend. Still half asleep and terrified, Barbara's mother opened the door. That was the moment everything changed. A masked man carrying a shotgun burst inside alongside another accomplice wearing a ski mask. Barbara's mother was chloroformed, tied up, and left helpless on the motel floor while the kidnappers dragged Barbara away at gunpoint. Barbara was shoved into the back of the car. She had no idea where they were taking her, but the kidnappers had spent months preparing for this crime and their plan was horrifying. The kidnappers drove Barbara to a remote wooden area in Georgia. There, hidden beneath the ground, was a fiberglass box they had specially built. It was essentially a coffin. Inside were a few supplies, which included water, small amounts of food, a flashlight, blankets, air pipes leading to the surface. The kidnappers told Barbara she would stay alive if her family paid the ransom. Then they forced her into the box. Barbara later said she screamed as they closed the lid above her. Then came the sound she would never forget, shovels throwing dirt onto the top of the box. The sound became quieter and quieter until there was only silence. Barbara Markle had just been buried alive. The box was only slightly larger than her body. She couldn't stand up, could barely move. The air inside quickly became hot and damp. Condensation dripped from the ceiling. At one point, the light failed, leaving her trapped in complete darkness underground. Meanwhile, above ground, the kidnappers demanded a sum of 500,000 from Barbara's father, an enormous amount of money in 1968. The FBI launched a massive search, but they had no idea where Barbara was buried. Every passing hour mattered. If the air pump failed, if the pipes became blocked, if rescuers researched the wrong area, Barbara would die underground. Buried beneath layers of death, Barbara tried desperately not to panic. She prayed, counted time, imagined spending Christmas with her family, and anything to stop herself from losing her mind. Hours turned into days. She later described hearing strange noises above her, wondering if rescuers were close, only for silence to return again. At times, she feared everyone had forgotten her, or worse, that the kidnappers never intended to let her out alive. The kidnappers nearly escaped with the ransom money, but during one attempted exchange, police unexpectedly drove near the drop-off point, forcing the kidnappers to flee and abandon a vehicle. Inside the abandoned car, investigators discovered documents connected to a man using the alias George Deacon. The FBI eventually linked the alias to an escaped convict named Gary Stephen Christ. After receiving the ransom money, Christ finally contacted authorities and gave vague directions to Barbara's location. That launched a frantic search. More than 100 FBI agents spread across wooded areas in Georgia, digging through dirt with their hands, shovels, and anything they could find, because time was running out. Then finally, one agent heard something faint beneath the ground. The search team stopped. Someone shouted, "Barbara, can you hear us?" From underground, a weak voice answered, "Yes." Agents began digging furiously. After more than 83 hours underground, Barbara Markle was pulled from the earth alive, dehydrated, exhausted, but alive. Photos from the rescue show Barbara emerging into daylight after nearly 4 days buried underground. The FBI agents reportedly cheered when they realized she had survived. Gary Christ was captured shortly afterwards, hiding in Florida. His accomplice Ruth Eastman Skay escaped for months before finally being caught after applying for a job and leaving fingerprints behind. Christ was sentenced to life in prison but was eventually released years later. Shockingly, he later became a doctor before losing his medical license decades later. Barbara, meanwhile, tried to move on with her life, but her survival story became one of the most famous kidnapping cases in American history. A nightmare that sounded impossible, yet really happened. For 83 hours, Barbara Markle laid buried beneath the earth in complete darkness, and somehow, against all odds, she survived. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe for more. See you in the next video.